Dear conscientious friends, American officers, sergeants, and soldiers, the great desire of the Korean and Chinese People's Army is for justice and national independence. Are you really fighting for freedom? Do you not realize by now that you have been sent by the Wall Street merchants to crush Korea's attempt to gain independence? You cannot beat 500 million Chinese and Koreans. Our brave and heroic soldiers will never surrender. Don't let your capitalist leaders deceive you. Don't fight their aggressive war. Let all foreign troops withdraw from Korea. Go home and live in peace.
Well, every GI in Korea wanted nothing more than to go home and live in peace. If only the communists would do the same thing. But they didn't, of course, until we fought them to a standstill. Now let me introduce you to another communist. This is going to be hard to take, so brace yourselves.
Hi, fellas. How are you today? Not so good, huh? Well, you know what General Sherman said about war. Oh, well, it'll only last 7 or 8 years, fellas. Of course, it could be less than that if your leaders would only listen to reason. But let's not talk about it. I'm going to play some real dreamy music for you. But first, I want to welcome some new fellows into the line, the 305th Infantry Regiment. I'm sorry the weather's so bad for you. We had planned to fix all the roads before you came. But there isn't much we can do about it now. Incidentally, keep your feet dry, fellas. Your medics can't do a thing for frozen toes. And your girlfriends back home don't want you crippled. Take it easy, huh?
That's the way Seoul City Sue entertained us in Korea. Nice music and a soft, sympathetic voice, selling discouragement and defeat. Digging graves, as all communists do, but lining them with velvet. But the men who heard that radio art of charm were sometimes interrupted, and very rudely, too, like this.
Yankee, you die! Yankee, we come! We come get you now! Oh, Yankee, you die now!
That's the way it went in Korea sometimes. First, the gentle voice, then the loudspeaker. They were interchangeable weapons in the communist war of words. Propaganda from the enemy in a combat zone like Korea is one thing. Propaganda in a peaceful country is something else. Most of you who will be stationed overseas will run into the second kind. At first, you may not notice that the grave diggers are as busy as ever, slandering us, trying to separate us from our allies. You'll go about your business for a long time, maybe, and then turn a corner one day and see it splashed across a fence or a wall. Or maybe on an ordinary street or square. Suddenly, you'll come across the party insignia on a doorway, and it'll remind you that the grave diggers are around. Or maybe you'll stop to look at a poster in some European town. You probably can't read the language, but the picture is plain enough. A while ago, I mentioned the importance of knowing the enemy's weapons and how to spoil their aim. Through your behavior and your friendly attitude, you can make a personal contribution toward combating communist accusations of gangsterism and gum-chewing arrogance. Here's another way to play it smart. Avoid any contact with political demonstrations and you'll stay out of trouble. The communists are good at making propaganda in a big, noisy way. And in a quiet, insidious way, too.
It's a very bad mistake to rearm Germany. The Soviets are no fools. They will not allow it, even if it means war.
France? It is a corpse, propped up by American bayonets. No, my friend. France is not a nation. It is a staging area for Americans when they are ready to attack the Soviet Union.
I do not say the Americans are bad, only mistaken. Where is this Soviet threat they talk about? Stalin is dead. The Soviets want only peace. So why don't the Americans go home?
Well, if you hear enough of this kind of gossip planted by the communists, enough phony rumors of America's secret plans to launch a war, enough big lies, little lies, and medium-sized lies, maybe you'll begin to believe some of it. Maybe you'll begin to wonder if there isn't some truth in it. Maybe nobody really likes us. Maybe the world really thinks we're imperialistic warmongers. Maybe. Well, that's what the gravediggers want you to think. Because if you do, you're halfway in the bag. The fact is that every free nation in the world looks to America as the bulwark of liberty. The fact is, behind the Iron Curtain are millions of people to whom the voice of America is the only voice of hope in a world of darkness. The fact is, in the exchange of war prisoners after Korea, 27,000 one-time communists refused to go home after one glimpse of freedom. The fact is that all along the Austrian border, the Czech border, the East German border, every day, every hour, people are slipping across, swimming across, crashing across to freedom, telling their pitiful stories in the refugee centers, asking only that they be allowed to stay on our side of the Iron Curtain. Their stories are all different, and yet always the same. If you heard 1,000 or two of these stories, they'd begin to get monotonous. You'd think, isn't there an end to this? No. There is no end. Not until communism ends, under the weight of its own evils and its own lies. Well, now you've seen a fair sample of enemy propaganda. Leaflets, magazines, broadcasts, posters, street demonstrations, rumors, agitation. They spend millions, but the funny thing is they don't get a dime's worth of good where people recognize the truth. It's as simple as that. If you know propaganda for what it is, you are protected from its lies. Not only that, you can take measures against it by giving the lie to the enemy at every turn. How? By realizing a simple fact, that in foreign eyes, you and your uniform are the image of America, and by conducting yourself accordingly. You're in the bullseye of the communists' target number one. And yet, our cause and our country can never be defeated unless we ourselves fail to uphold it. And that can never be as long as we act like Americans. And remember these words: I will never forget that I am an American fighting man, responsible for my actions and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America.
The best defense against enemy propaganda is truth. For a communist, a thing is true only if it advances the communist cause. It is false if it does not. The soldier who understands how enemy propaganda works is forewarned and forearmed. In this knowledge lies his strength. Now, this is Sergeant Stuart Queen, inviting you to be with us again next week for another look at your Army in action on the big picture.
The Big Picture is a weekly television report to the nation on the activities of the Army at home and overseas. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center, presented by the United States Army in cooperation with this station. You too can be an important part of the Big Picture. You can proudly serve with the best equipped, the best trained, the best fighting team in the world today, the United States Army.